the president and the Republicans will continue to unveil creative ideas and solutions to the health care crisis that was created by Democrats. Chuck Schumer is not sincerely interested in lowering health care costs for the American people. If Chuck Schumer actually wanted to lower health care costs, I'm sure the president would welcome him and his entire Democrat caucus to a legitimate coordination on the president's policies of bringing down drug prices, these most favored nation deals. Why hasn't Chuck Schumer ever come out in support of those? Those are going to legitimately, they already are, lower drug prices for the American people, and not a word from Chuck Schumer on it. So I think that just proves this is completely political.
That's White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt yesterday at the podium saying President Trump is working with Republicans on Capitol Hill to find a solution on health care after the Senate rejected competing proposals from both sides of the aisle to address the expiration of enhanced Obamacare subsidies. The GOP's plan to instead fund American health care savings accounts failed 51 to 48 yesterday, short of the 60-vote threshold. Joining me now is Wisconsin Congressman Tom Tiffany. Congressman, good to see you. Capitol Hill is going to obviously begin its end-of-year holiday recess sometime this week, next week. You're not returning until January 5th in the Senate. And you're here next week, right, in the House? Is that right?
We are in all next week.
What can happen in these final couple of legislative days? Are we ending the year with no solution or resolution, rather, on these health care subsidies?
Yeah, the House, we are working, and we have been working for months to come to a resolution. And I think you're going to see some solutions come forward next week. But what's very evident in the Senate vote yesterday, Maria, is that Republicans are going to have to go it alone in order to reform what has gone on with Obamacare that has given us higher cost health care. Americans want lower cost health care, and it's evident we Republicans are going to have to go it alone because Democrats are dug in. They will save Obamacare in any way, shape, or form that they can.
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, they want to extend these subsidies for another 3 years. What happened to all of your unity on we got to get back to pre-COVID spending?
Yeah, well, it's out the window when it comes to Obamacare. Important to remember, we repeat this all the time, Maria. People earning up to $500,000 get these enhanced COVID subsidies. Why would the American people have to subsidize something like that? I mean, there's just no reason for that to happen.
And Congressman, I want to get your take on the final days and the agenda here. What is your priority going into 26? Do you expect that we're going to see enough of the appropriations bills done that the Democrats won't be able to hold you hostage again and shut down the government at the end of January?
Yeah, we sure hope to do that, and we want to continue the pro-growth policies. You know, some of the guests that you just had on talked about how bullish they are going into 2026. We need to build on this. I mean, look at egg prices are down, gas prices are down. We're down to $2.50 a gallon in northern Wisconsin, where I live, and the economy is growing. We need to build on that because that is what the American people asked for, and we're going to put more money into people's pockets. I think you're going to see a strong economy in 2026. Let's build on that.
Well, I mean, I would think so, given the big, beautiful bill and all its elements in terms of the impact on the economy. But it's been really a messaging problem, right? I mean, you know, you see the Democrats rallying around this whole idea of affordability as if it's, you know, they thought about it and they're the only ones who are trying to rein in Joe Biden's 40-year high inflation. And yet, you know, people are criticizing the Republicans for the way you're communicating this and the messaging. Shouldn't you be out on every rooftop you can get and anybody who will hear you to talk about, hey, we gave the Democrats the affordability issue. They blew it. They created Obamacare and it was way too expensive. So we're trying to rein everything in. I mean, shouldn't you be messaging that a little more aggressively?
We should certainly be out there. But, I mean, you have an echo chamber that goes on out here on the East Coast in Washington and New York. And, yes, we do have to try to break through it. I mean, what I do is I go on to every local radio station in my district. We are messaging that here in Wisconsin. And I think the message is breaking through to a certain extent. And I would point to the Schumer shutdown. People understand now that there is a problem with the ACA, with Obamacare. Now, can we bring forward solutions that are going to help the American people to have low-cost health care rather than the high-cost health care that they've seen?
Yeah. All right, Congressman, let me switch gears. You sent a letter to Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers urging him to release the state's food stamp data to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. This follows the fallout of that massive Minnesota fraud scandal. which allegedly involved hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars going to a Somali terrorist group. What do you want to tell us about this? You're warning Wisconsin could face fraud similar to Minnesota's Feeding Our Future scandal. Tell us more.
Maria, you said hundreds of millions. It is going to go into the billions. They're talking as high as $8 billion. So this is taxpayers' money, not just in Minnesota, but across the country that has been taken fraudulently. And remember, some of that money has ended up with terrorist organizations in Somalia. So every state has a problem here. And the Secretary of Agriculture simply asked, show us your data, each state. Wisconsin should do the same. Our governor refuses to do that. He refuses to give the people of the state of Wisconsin the transparency that they deserve so they're not being ripped off by fraudsters. Every state should turn that over, Wisconsin included, so that we get the fraud rooted out of the food stamp program here in America.
Unbelievable. Todd Pyro, jump in here.
You're obviously in Wisconsin. We've mentioned Minnesota. How many other states should we expect to see something along these lines? Have you heard any, I don't want to use the word rumors, but have you heard anything bubbling up out of any of the other states?
Yeah, I refer to them as the woke and broke. You look at California, New York, but also our neighbors, Minnesota and Illinois, I'll guarantee you they have serious problems because administratively, they just allow people to sign up and they don't do a thorough vetting process. That's what needs to happen. You need to cross-check people to make sure that they're legitimately on these programs. And remember, that's the greatest harm that can be done here, is they're jeopardizing these programs that we're very generous as Americans, that we want to help people out when they truly are in need. Yet you have these fraudsters taking millions, if not billions of dollars from the American taxpayer.
Unbelievable. Meanwhile, former Wisconsin Department of Administration Secretary Joel Brennan and former Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes have jumped into the Wisconsin governor's race. Congressman, you declared yourself as the GOP frontrunner in this race. How's the race going, and what is your take on these two new entrants?
Oh, the race is going good. People are going to see a clear contrast in this race. I mean, you have the hard left represented in the Democrat primary. I mean, Mr. Barnes, who ran against Senator Johnson in 2022 and failed in his mission, I mean, he stands for reparations. He wants to defund the police. He stands with not the victims of crime, but the perpetrators of crime. I mean, when he was lieutenant governor, they're part of the policies that led to higher utility rates in Wisconsin, $2 billion more that they're paying. And so you've seen this regime that has not worked in Wisconsin over the last 7 years, and yet they want to continue taking us in that direction. We do not want to end up like Minnesota and Illinois. We want to be one of the prosperous states of America, and that's the message that I'm going to deliver to the people of the state of Wisconsin.
All right, Congressman, we'll be watching you work on that for sure. Good to see you this morning, sir. Thank you. Tom, Tiffany
Always
joining us.
good to join you.